Just to start with some definitions, I know you know this, but this is the phone, this is the tablet, and it's important to recognize the difference because they are distinct in the ways that consumers use them, and of course in the data that we see. But for the purpose of this presentation, both of these are going to be considered mobile, and wherever possible, I will kind of elaborate on if it is smartphone data or if it is tablet data. But anytime I'm referring to mobile, it usually is the sum of those two. Now, just a little bit of further clarification. Phablets, which are those larger phones that typically will have that cellular connection, we'll put in the smartphone bucket, and collectively there are about 200 million smartphone subscribers in the US. And those mini tablets, the iPad minis and other small, like the Samsung Galaxy, I think the 7 inches, are gonna also be in the tablet number, and there are about, at this point in time, 100 million tablet owners in the US. So, how much are phones going to generate? 2014, our estimate is $26 billion for our phone commerce transactions, and that's about 30 different physical goods and media categories that we are measuring. The estimate goes up to, by 2018, about 46 billion. Now, one piece of the smartphone commerce pie that we don't include in that number, and the reason is because our e-commerce collective figure is those 30 physical categories. We have separate forecasts for travel and other sectors. But when we add on travel and other services, that will add in 2014 another 17 billion. So what do we mean by travel and other services? Typically, that's going to include any of your Airbnb on a mobile phone spend, or your Uber spend, or even any restaurant spend. Like, for instance, if you order a Domino's pizza and you get cash on delivery, or you're ordering on Chipotle's app and you go pick it up in a physical store. So that's what's in the light blue figure. When I look at the tablet figure, that's even bigger. So by 2014, we have 56 billion being transacted on the tablet. And collectively, e-commerce, and I'll share with you those numbers in a minute, but it's about, in 2014, estimated to be about 300 billion. So significantly higher tablet than phone number. And the travel and other services number, of course, on the tablet is smaller than on the phone for obvious reasons. You're not necessarily ordering an Uber car on your tablet device, more likely to do that on the phone. So how does this compare to the overall retail pie? When I look at the sum of the dark blue on those previous slides, we end up with about 82 billion for 2014, which is about somewhere between a fourth and a third of the overall e-commerce pie. And the real majority, the vast majority of sales are still happening in the offline world, which is the gold figure here. And this, by the way, excludes grocery, which is adds another $1 trillion or so to the denominator. But the point being that, kind of, even though we have by 2018, and why mobile is still so important to us by 2018, well over half of what's transacted in e-commerce is going to be on these mobile devices. The majority is still happening in the offline world. Now, as far as how the devices break out, we know that just the high-level data on the left being the percent of web shoppers, that penetration of people who own smartphones is certainly going up. And a significant portion of them are iPhone owners. So that's, of course, why there, of course, is the focus on the iDevices. Now, the one little bit about the iPhone number, it probably goes down slightly once you exclude iPod Touches, which happen to be in that number, but I don't think it's such a big number that it, would significantly distort that. I think that the story is largely consistent. Now, the story with the tablets, however, is very different, because look at that enormous growth rate between 2011 and 2014, is that by 2014, now more than half of all our web shoppers have tablets, so that's huge. It's the way that phones were back in 2011, and the vast majority is, in fact, the iPad, or a significant majority is, in fact, the iPad, and you have the Kindle and the Samsung Galaxy being a significantly lower number 2 and number 3 in that portrait. And if you include the mini with the iPad, that makes it even bigger. So just a little bit of some background as to the size of e-commerce or the size of m-commerce and what we're looking at there. Now, how are consumers actually shopping on different devices? And before we even answer that, I think it's important to see where are people using these devices. So we have the phone and the tablet. We have the dark blue being the places in the home, the black being where people are when they're traveling, and the gray being different venues and locations. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is that the store is actually one of the top places that people are actually using their phone. Now, that does not mean that they are using their phone in stores to shop. They are just physically, it's one of those venues where you have the phone and there's content and information that is being accessed at that place. Now, it's significantly lower for the tablet, naturally, but the phone piece is certainly a big point.